Okay, this is going to be over the activity we did in class on Monday. This will be reflection number 4. So I'll just go ahead and get started. With question number 1, describe one concept, skill, or social work value that you learned from the activity. So the thing that I thought of during the activity was in regard to when we were asked about an experience in which we may have been discriminated against for our religious affiliation. And while I don't belong to any particular religion, there are still certain tenets I may stand by and live my life by the tenets of other, I guess, bodies of knowledge or something like that. And I thought of political ideologies was the one that I discussed in class. And I talked about how I feel like just one thing that I feel like a lot of people are discriminated against is because of their political ideology. And I brought up just experiences of my own being made fun of for my views on gay marriage or my views on abortion. Or who you vote for, and then I can think of, but it goes both ways. I can think of times where I have thought badly of somebody, of maybe like a conservative person who, told me their views on abortion if they were, significantly different than mine, or their views on gay marriage, and if they were significantly different than mine, then I know that I've said something, like, are you serious or are you crazy? Or, and that, the political arena can be experienced among friends, among family, among colleagues. Really anybody that has an opinion on, political aspect of our society. So anyway, that was just something that I thought of and something that I just wanted to bring light to for myself. So the second thing, question number 2, identify one area of knowledge, skill, and or social work value you became aware of wanting to explore further to increase competency based on class discussion, or the class exercise. So one thing I thought of was so this might be sort of a long point to make, but I think, and I would say that many social workers agree with me, that social work has a bad rap, or a bad rep of, and that we, for that bad rep that we get, and a bunch of other reasons that I'll explain, it's that I think social workers have low self-confidence in their own profession. And I'll explain that in a minute, but I'm sure you've heard or maybe have heard of experiences someone else has had of someone being discriminated against for being a social worker. Maybe for, you come and you steal babies, you're a baby stealer. Or maybe they had a bad experience when they were going through maybe working with a social worker as they were going through like a legal case. Many people, friends, family, colleagues within even interdisciplinary teams that I've worked with, they may make a crack about social work, as in like, oh, well, if we need somebody to go take that child, we better, we'll send Andrew, he's a social worker. Or, oh, well, if somebody's having a mental breakdown or something, oh, well, we'll get a social worker on that. Or, they'll just make jokes, and not that that stuff isn't important, but I don't understand why someone would even make fun of that sort of thing. And another example is, and these are coming from an article that I'll discuss in a minute, and whenever you're telling maybe a friend or family member, I want to be a social worker, I've chosen social work, that's my new major, and they may be like, oh my gosh, social workers don't get paid very well, that's not good pay. So I feel like that, in some people's eyes, the level of importance a job holds in the public's eye is based on how much money you make. And that can be true for some positions, I think. Doctors should make what it costs to go to school and to perform the tasks required of a doctor. And I think that because so many social workers, myself included, have experienced this over such a long period of time, that we actually have low self-confidence in ourselves, in our profession, and then I guess, somewhere deep down, maybe in ourselves because of the profession. So, on that note, that was just something that I wanted to explore. And to moving on to number 3, how did I explore this further? So what I did was there was actually an article, there were a couple articles that I looked at, but I didn't find anything on the book related to like self-esteem for social work clinicians, or that I found anyway, that could very well be there. But I looked to the internet, and I looked to an article by The Guardian. And while The Guardian is a news organization based out of the United Kingdom. They're a news publisher. They have a magazine. They write articles oftentimes about social welfare issues or politically motivated issues, world events, things like that, what's kind of going on in the world. And while I know that this is written by an individual probably in the United Kingdom or by a United Kingdom news organization, I think that the parallels are very similar between social work in the United Kingdom, or what these individuals may be writing about, and social work practice in the United States. So, and I'll talk about that. So the article describes that oftentimes because social workers' perception of how they are not paid very well for their work, and maybe a lot of social workers, myself included, thinks that social workers should be paid more for the type of jobs that they're doing, for the intense stress and intense level of grief that they may have to deal with day in and day out. The article also said that a lot of social workers find low self-confidence because of burnout. Eventually, the feelings of compassion fatigue, something I think you know a lot about. The burnout that can come with the job of social work can lead a lot of professionals to find a new path completely. And in fact, the article said that the average span that social workers in the United Kingdom stayed social workers or worked as social workers throughout the course of their life was only 8 years after they received education in social work. So I thought that was really interesting. And then another thing they talked about is just disrespect that social workers get. I talked a little bit about this answering the last question. Maybe the disrespect you might get from your friends, as in like, oh, maybe you don't get paid, you don't get paid well enough, or maybe you're doing something that they don't necessarily understand it, or necessarily just don't agree with, and they do have a good understanding of it. Maybe certainly individuals, clients that you might work with, they may be apprehensive to speak with a social worker because they're afraid you may do something, maybe take away their children, maybe make that hotline, or maybe whatever has been. Who knows why so many people, make those funny remarks or make the cracks about social workers, but, for whatever reason they do. So the lack of respect that a lot of social workers get leaves a lot of them to eventually become resentful of the job. That I'm sure that plays a big part in their burnout. And eventually, they're not going to be as effective in social work. With low self-esteem, it's going to be hard for you to, have the will to not only, do what's best for yourself or to think what's best of yourself, but you're going to have trouble seeing the best in your clients and furthering them along as they try and, build confidence, as you build rapport with them and things like that. Okay. And then what steps did I take? Oh, I already explained that. I'm sorry. And what specifically I learned? Okay, yeah, I talked about that too. Okay, and that article was it was actually did not have a title or an author on it. It just said the social worker. I think it was just sort of like a, I don't know. I'm not really sure why. And in case you'd like to know, the article was called "Social Work Needs to Regain Its Self-Control and Pride," and that was authored in March of 2011, and that was by The Guardian again. Okay, and for question number 4, describe what surprised or interested you the most professionally or personally during our activity. So during our activity, I was really surprised by how open and honest a lot of my classmates were. I know a classmate talked about the insecurities they had, being discriminated based on their weight or their size. Another classmate talked about being discriminated against because of her body image. Another classmate described being discriminated against because of a medical condition she was living with. I just thought that it was a lot more than I anticipated hearing going into the activity. I didn't think people would honestly be so open and honest and truthful with the way they felt. And I thought that was just really interesting. Yeah, you just never know I think in activities like that, you never really know what to expect. And I wasn't expecting such openness. So the way I think that this can build competency, our personal competency as a practitioner, is because when you're more in touch, I think, when a social worker or any clinician is more in touch with their own feelings, or has, been able to express their feelings and have their feelings dealt with or built upon in a positive way, I think that builds competency from experiencing that, from going through that, the experience of being open and honest with your own feelings, and then being able to be in touch with yourself and honest with yourself about those feelings and experiences. I think it makes you more likely to be able to be empathetic to others that are having those feelings or going through similar events in their own life, because you've experienced it in a way that is healthy, within a way that we deem healthy. You've been able to talk about it, get it off your chest, maybe restructure how you think about it, or maybe you've needed medication to assist you with that. And any of those things that you go through, that experience of having experienced those feelings for yourself and having dealt with them in a positive way, I think will build competence as you deal with those issues in a client. Okay, and then how has this helped me to become, or social workers become, an ethical leader by increasing self-monitoring needed to identify personal thoughts, patterns, strengths, and affect? I think that the ability for social workers to monitor and discuss their personal feelings allows them to see that in others, and allows them to process what happened. I pretty much answered this question just now, but just to reiterate, I think when every client, or social workers especially, when they get the chance to, when they get the chance to express how they feel, what's on their mind, whether it be about a traumatic event or storytelling, whatever happened to them, or telling them about the way they think, they're not just saying that just to tell somebody. They're saying that to process it themselves, to find out, to conceptualize how they're going to think about it, how that certain event or how those things happened. They're trying to come to terms with it by telling someone else about it. And I think that the ability for somebody to be open and honest, and to be able to open up the way that a lot of my colleagues did in class, I think it gives you the ability to bring that out of your clients, bringing that feeling of openness and honesty out of your clients, and will allow you to process, and your clients to process, maybe certain biases you have, or maybe certain thoughts that you might have toward a particular area that you may not have identified or may not have known about yourself beforehand. So yeah, So I know that last part was sort of wordy. I do apologize for that, but thank you very much.